That's some of the questions that I have, because
you
you have these developers, or you have companies, private companies, that come in and promise you jobs, they promise all this revenue, and then they don't deliver on it. So like, there has to be some way for us to hold these people accountable when they do not. What I see is a contract. You have a contract. This contract says that we will give you these breaks and do this and this for you, and you will bring these benefits to our community. And if you do not bring the benefits and meet your goals that you say you can meet, then you have to pay us this much money back, or there's got to be some sort of way of holding, and then you have to do it. Because they can have those things in contracts.
Well, and
but if nobody pushes it,
that's the biggest problem, right? You have to have all three branches of government working for you and having the public interest at heart. The biggest problem right now is that at the legislative level, and I mean this both at the state, at the county, at the local level, and at the federal level, parties don't always have that right at heart. Or they are neoliberal, in which case they think that the business interests are the best interests.
Yes.
And I do not think that the business interests are the best interests, right? I do think you need to develop small business. I do think that you need to create competition, but I do not think that the Koch network has the best interests of people. I do not think that the Farm Bureau, which is actually an insurance company, always has your best interests. Do they provide good quality insurance for some farmers? Absolutely. Do I think they provide some good advice and some good networking and all those things? Absolutely.
But at the end of the day, they're about making money off of those people, or not paying out to them.
Yes.
That's their goal.
They lobby in Washington for things that are contrary to the small farmer. They lobby really for these big agro businesses.
Exactly. Yes.
And there's a point where you got to break that up. There's a point where that's not in your best interest anymore. And we got to start having those conversations, because then you can move forward.
If they have complete control of our food supply, they have complete control of everything. They have complete control of our government, because they can just wield that over a small community like you guys, or send 200 people in to
they say,
get their interests
met. We're going to create 17, then it goes to 12, then it goes to 20, then it goes to 200 jobs. For a community like Plainville, that's huge, right? But then when they say, we're only going to pay $12 an hour. That's not enough to make rent. So where are those people going to be housed?
This is another thing I want to talk about, was minimum wage, like raising minimum wage, because a lot of the arguments that I hear about from people in the city about the rural areas is that if we raise minimum wage to 15, it's going to shut down all these mom and pop stores, and all these people that live out in the country in the rural areas won't be able to sustain it and pay it. And I'm like, but the people there need a living wage. They shouldn't be able. If your business cannot provide a living wage, that means it doesn't get to expand and have employees.
So you have business model conflicts is basically what this comes down to.
It's a failed business model.
Do you want to do the work of creating a business model that will allow for minimum wage or not? So for small businesses, that could be a problem. It depends which small business you're in. I would use the one that I'm in, right? So I'm working as a waiter at my local bar, right? I know quite a bit of people. So when I talk with the owners and stuff, and we've had this discussion, would it be better for them to just pay $30,000 to each employee as a salary, as opposed to being a tipped wage? Now, there's some variance. So for some people who don't perform as well or don't get as many hours, they're going to make a little bit more. For some people who get more hours but also perform a little bit better, they're going to get a little bit less. But would that change, there's some trade-offs there. Would that change in terms of schedule predictability? Would you get PTO? Would you be able to afford insurance that way? There's all these things that you have to think about. Now, you have to think about your revenue model. If you're in a small community and you can only make, let's say, $1 million a year at your small restaurant, you've got to balance being able to go salaried versus tipped against how much revenue you're bringing in your business loan. Because there's only so many people and from so much distance that you can pull in on a regular basis. So if it's not possible for a small independent restaurant to do something like that, one risk that you're taking in substantially raising the minimum wage at the federal level or at the state level is that you create the conditions for more franchises, because those get subsidized by your big corporation, right? So that's one risk. I'm not saying that would necessarily happen. there's a question of what can the state or the federal government do to mitigate that risk.
Yeah.
And we're not having that debate at all.